Well, good evening. This is Congressman Nick Langworthy, and I want to thank you for joining me tonight and welcome to our March telephone town hall meeting. I'm speaking to you live from the Capitol in Washington, and if you've joined us before, you know this is part of a monthly series where I have the opportunity to update you directly on what's happening in Washington and how I'm working for you and your families, but more importantly, to hear your questions, to talk about issues that are important to you and that you could ask me directly. And, we have thousands and thousands of people participate in this each and every month. And it's a great opportunity for us to, share information and hear directly what's on your mind. If this is your first time joining us, it's great to have you. If at any point during the call you'd like to get in line to ask a question, press *3 on your phone. We'll get you in the lineup, and we're going to get to as many phone calls as possible tonight. Again, *3. For those of you that have joined before, you know that while we have people that help facilitate the callers, we don't screen for topics. We have people from every political persuasion on these calls. It's a governmental call. I don't have the opportunity to screen for party affiliation or political persuasion. And I don't shy away from tough questions or criticisms. My only requirement is that you're respectful, so that our time together is productive for the thousands of people who are taking time out of their night to participate in this forum. So before we get to questions, I want to share a quick update on what's happening in Washington right now. One of the greatest challenges that we face is the fact that our Department of Homeland Security has been shuttered for a month. It's closed because Democrats in the Senate have blocked funding using the filibuster. Again, they're using the filibuster to keep a portion of our government shut down, despite the fact that we had bipartisan agreement to fund all appropriations measures. They're doing this over their opposition to Customs and Border Patrol and ICE. Now, I want to start by stating unequivocally, I am against government shutdowns, period, end of story. I don't care what party you're in, whether you're in the majority, a minority, or if it's split government. I don't care if you think that you're championing the most important thing in the world, but government shutdowns are wrong. They hurt the American people, and holding our government hostage has never resulted in anything positive ever in the history of our country. It's irresponsible, and it needs to stop altogether. But keeping the Department of Homeland Security shut down for 31 days is a new level of recklessness. It's a national security nightmare waiting to happen. DHS is the agency that protects us against all terrorism threats, both physical and cyber. And it's estimated that federal agencies alone receive over 18 million cyber attacks every day. And I'm not just talking about the run-of-the-mill phishing email scams, but targeted digital attacks that put our security at risk. We need cyber defenses to protect our critical institutions throughout the federal government, but also on a local level, our water and sewer infrastructure, our energy grid, our banking systems. The list of targets is endless. And just a few days ago, Iran, who was behind a cyber attack against the medical tech company Stryker, they were hacked, and the company experienced a widespread data wipe. And that is just catastrophic to their patients that are serviced by that company. Now, thankfully, that attack did not result in any physical danger to anyone, but it's a reminder that these attacks are occurring at mind-blowing volume. And we need to be right about this 100% of the time. We can't do that unless the workforce is protecting us vigilantly, and they're 100% focused on the job. And the same goes for the TSA. The TSA at the airport, no one likes to go through TSA. But TSA is the front lines to keep our skies safe. And that's our first line of defense, protecting our air travel from terrorism. And our Coast Guard, protecting our waterways. And all operations are housed under the Department of Homeland Security. These federal workers are vital to our national security, but instead of being treated with respect and given support, they are now on their, held their pay for the third time in just 6 months. And many of the frontline workers, especially at TSA, are working without a paycheck. And I'm sure you've all seen the headlines and the stories on the cable news stations with the long, long lines at the airport. We all see the ones in Austin, Texas. It's 3-4 hours to get through TSA. But imagine the hardship this is causing the workers and their families, not being able to pay their mortgage or buy gas or get groceries. Since the shutdown, there's been more than 300 TSA agents who have resigned from their positions. And the chilling effect that this is going to have on recruitment and retention cannot be overstated. We don't want this to last beyond the shutdown. And that's where we're heading, where people aren't going to go into the field. It's very similar to the problem New York State's having with corrections officers, where they know they're going to be mistreated on the job, so people don't apply for the job. We're playing with fire, and it's just cruel to the workers being used as political pawns. I've been urging Senate Democrats to stop the shutdown since day one, but now I'm going a step further. And today I introduced a bill that would use the dedicated 9/11 security fund towards TSA employee salaries during shutdowns. It's called the Pay the TSA Act of 2026. Every airline passenger pays a nominal 9/11 passenger security fee. I think it's $5.60 per leg of any trip that you take. And that fee is to support aviation security in the work of the TSA, but currently it can't be used to pay personnel or operations costs. My bill changes that by creating a dedicated fund to ensure that TSA officers who are required to still show up to work during a shutdown can continue to be paid if the appropriations lapse. This is a common sense fix to an urgent problem that's in front of us right now. It directly affects the safety and security of air travel and the country. I'm going to keep fighting for an end to the DHS shutdown. We need the Senate to act, but we need to act immediately to not only solve the issue for workers in this shutdown, but also to protect them against long-term damage that's being caused to the department. That bill will provide stability and assurance in the future that the frontline workers will not be mistreated and have to work without pay again. So a reminder, if you're joining us, press *3 if you want to ask a question. To get your question in line. There are a lot of pressing issues facing our nation right now that I'm sure that we're going to talk to both at home and here across the nation, across the world for that matter. And I'm sure you have a lot on your mind. So we're going to get to as many questions as possible. Again, press *3 to get in line with a question. And with that, we'll go to our first caller. We're going to talk to Joseph. Hello, Joseph.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can. Where are you calling from tonight?
I'm calling from Lancaster, New York.
Okay. Thanks for being on the line. What's on your mind?
So I want to talk to you about the DHS shutdown. I agree with you about a lot of what you said. I think TSA is essential. I think there are so many great organizations below DHS that are very important, shouldn't be shut down. So the thing I want to ask you is, ICE and CBP in DHS have such a low approval rate right now, and everything else is so high. Everyone loves TSA, everyone loves Coast Guard, obviously. But nobody, like 30% of Americans approve of ICE and CBP. So I'm wondering why you don't support a bill to fund all the good parts of DHS and then, work on further funding for ICE and CBP and try and reform those, but after you open all the good parts.
I haven't said that I don't. I want to see this.
Well, I'm sorry. I mean, when I said you, I really mean Republicans in general.
Well, Republicans in the Senate. I mean, listen, that's the cheap way out for Democrats. I mean, they have started a shutdown. They did this earlier this year. It was 45 days long. Nothing got accomplished at the end of the day, and 6 or 7 of them caved and just rolled over. But for 45 days, the government was held hostage. We fund the government through appropriation by department. ICE in Customs and Border Patrol, U.S. Border Patrol, those are critical agencies to protect our country. And, people, obviously what happened, the cause of death, there's a lot of investigations going on. The loss of life is a tragedy. Those investigations will go on, and I will pass judgment once the investigation's complete as to who was at fault or what was to blame. But withholding the appropriations for federal workers is not the answer to diplomatically solving this. And the only people that are getting hurt are the frontline workers. And the TSA, the Coast Guard, and all the other agencies within the Department of Homeland Security are being held hostage there. Right now when you have majorities you have the White House and the House and the Senate all being run by Republicans, the Democrats think they can just say no through this filibuster. I think that they should switch. If they want to use a filibuster, it should be a traditional standing filibuster. Like, everyone remembers watching in school Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, where they've got to speak on the floor until they're out of gas. If they really want to do that, not just raising of hands to say I object. I mean, I think that the majority is not ruling here. We will have an investigation that will dictate that. I think the president has offered some reforms to U.S. Border Patrol and ICE. body cams, things like that. We got a new Secretary of Homeland Security coming into office, but unfortunately, I think there's a political game being played here, and now we're seeing it affect people, on a daily basis that are trying to go for business meetings, their vacations, travel throughout the country or the world, and they're not able to make their flights, and you're seeing it really affect the balance of our country. I don't know how I would vote yet if they move forward with a bill that would split this up. I don't think it's the most effective way for us to handle appropriations to say anything but frankly, the ICE has all the funding they need this year because of what was done in budget reconciliation last summer. So they're not the ones that are going without at this point. It's the Coast Guard and it's DHS and it's the federal workers that so many in the opposing party were so worried about during the DOJ process. Now they don't seem to give a damn about those federal workers.
I appreciate
I'm worried
that.
about
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So that's my
perspective. Does it resonate with you at all? Yeah, that does give me a lot of context, so I appreciate that. Does it resonate with you at all, though, that the American opinion of ICE and CBP is so much lower than all these other agencies? Like, does that give you any indication that maybe this should be treated
not
differently?
I mean, what do you think the IRS's approval ratings are?
That's different. I mean,
when you have 100% negative media stories based on one agency, it's going to affect public opinion.
Right. IRS has always been
a variety
of
opinions. I get letters
very much
support
less rate than before.
Sure. I mean, they have certainly gotten a lot of negative publicity since the tragedy in Minnesota that was completely avoidable. And I'm withholding judgment until the investigation's complete on that. But they're doing a critical mission. We have many people in this country that are here illegally. There are many people in this country that are on the terrorist watch list. And, on a daily basis, as I talk to this agency, they're removing some very hardened criminals from our backyard. And, that doesn't seem to get on TV, but when, a tragedy strikes, it's on the news nonstop. So, we don't get to just go based on the court of public opinion, as the media tends to color that greatly. But, when they get someone that's raped 3 children and they remove that person, that doesn't get any coverage, which, that's a heroic act. And there are a lot of those, a lot more than have ever been, really acknowledged by the mainstream media. But I really appreciate your calling. Thank you for the opportunity to kind of lay out kind of where I stand on that. And thanks for being with us tonight. Next, we're going to go to Anna. Hi, Anna.
Hi. I was just on mute. Sorry.
Okay.
Hello.
Where are you calling from tonight?
I'm calling from Corning, New York.
Okay. Thanks for being with us. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I think I would like to just kind of pick your brain about what's going on in Iran. I know that there's just kind of been everything's all over the place about what we've been hearing about why we've gone in and that it's over and it's not over, like how much time. And then there's just no clarity as to what's going on over there. And I was hoping that maybe you could help to clarify what the goal is in Iran and really what our plan is to get out as soon as possible.
And that's a very valid question because, I do think that the president probably could have done a better job of laying out the case to the American people in getting the country ready that the time for talks had been exhausted. And, I go back to when he was winding down the Gaza conflict, there was a big push for diplomacy. And, it was going to take give and take on both sides to end that conflict. And Iran was the funding mechanism for the terrorist, control in Gaza. But this was very abrupt, and it caught everyone by surprise. in the past, as President Bush went into Iraq, it was probably a 3-month lead up. You could turn your phone down. I'm getting a little feedback. There was a constant case, and you knew where it was heading the whole time. The element of surprise certainly was important as President Trump eliminated the original nuclear threat in the mountain last summer. And that was swift, and I think many of us thought that would be, the end of U.S. involvement. But as they tried to negotiate a nuclear, specific nuclear deal where Iran would stop pursuing nuclear weapons, they just would not do that. And, Iran and that regime was the world's leading sponsor of terror. They have the blood of thousands of Americans and our allies on their hands. I mean, every day they chant death to America. And that was not a slogan. The regime has actively pursued nuclear weapons. And the one thing about that, Islamic fundamentalist regime, they would use the nuclear weapons if they had them.
I guess where I was also kind of confused too is that when we had gone into and attacked Iran, months ago, and we said that we had destroyed everything, and then now it's such a huge threat, and I don't know, it just feels like it's a lot of mixed messaging, and it doesn't seem like.
I will be the first to admit there was not a clearly defined cause at the outset of the president's decision to strike. Under the War Powers Act, he has 60 to 90 days to conduct a mission before he has to ask for congressional approval, and he's elected to do that, just like many other presidents have done. I mean, whether it's Bill Clinton or Barack Obama, I am not the commander-in-chief. The commander-in-chief decides when the U.S. uses force. They have a set window before they need to have congressional authority to do that. I think that we have to try to take some of the partisanship out of this because we have troops in harm's way, and we've seen American bloodshed. I take this extraordinarily seriously, and I think we all have to. And this is not the time for partisanship. There will come a time where he needs congressional approval, and that has to be weighed very soberly. I do not want to see a troop commitment on the ground in Iran because I do believe, that's a country of 93 million people. We would have a quagmire in a long, drawn out campaign. I think
a lot of people are saying that it already can be we've already started a quagmire. It's not going to happen. It's like we already started this.
They've certainly been destabilized. The regime seems to be gasping. Their military capabilities are worn down to a nub, and that's obvious by just what you see them firing every day in terms of missile count. Day one it was 350, and now it's into single digits.
I guess as a congressperson, what I would hope that you would think it's not just about like their military, because fine, maybe their military is under wraps. What about the people? Like we went in. And like now the people that were looking for like new leadership and a new regime in Iran, now we've gone and dismantled and threw things all out of chaos, and now they're kind of upset with us. Like how is that not a breeding ground for another terrorist attack? Like the way that we went about it, like we're creating more enemies than liberating like a people. Like I just don't see how.
Well, they were slaughtering their people by the tens of thousands every day that were protesting in the streets, and now would be the moment where those people can take their government back and topple this regime. If they choose to, be angry at the United States for taking the military might away from their captors, that would be an unfortunate result of this. But
the way that we went about it was probably
we went after their military capabilities. No. I mean, we weren't going after civilians. We weren't targeting the populace. We were targeting their military capabilities and their ability to wage war.
A school got bombed, and there's still no answers on that.
Well, it very well could have been an Iranian missile that hit that building. I mean, the United States wasn't targeting
there's
schools.
Like a lot of question marks. There's a lot of question marks all over the place, which is what makes me nervous. And it feels like without everyone being on the same page, this is how things get even worse, go from bad to worse and worse.
Well,
And I
we
guess
would like to
what I'm
see
urging,
a more peace-loving regime, take out this regime that has had blood on its hands, did it very
Sure.
cowardly through, satellite actors, through terrorist organizations around the globe. I mean, they have been responsible for a lot of bloodshed around the world in a very cowardly way. And
well, I don't want to take up too much time. I have a little bit of your time. I would just like to urge you. I know that you've even the newsletters that we get weekly, it's about how the Democrats have done this and that. Like, I really would hope that when it comes to these kind of issues that it's not Democrat and Republican, and like maybe that isn't your first billing when you send out the newsletters about how Democrats have done this and this.
I don't believe you've heard anything out of my mouth about the war effort that has had any partisan labeling to it.
No. I was talking about the shutdown.
The shutdown. One party decided to shut the government down. That is just a black and white issue.
Come on. Both parties need to work together. There needs to be compromise. Like, if I went into my job and acted as if Congress did and didn't compromise, like, I'd be fired. So I would hope that, like, fine, like, you have your opinions, but you have to work together. And this is not the time.
This is what I just want to make this point on the appropriations process. We've passed 11 of the 12 appropriations bills with bipartisan support. We've passed through the House the DHS appropriations bill with bipartisan support twice. The Senate, after Minnesota decided, the Senate Democrats decided they were going to abandon the compromise when it was a bipartisanly negotiated bill, and they said that they were going to do a shutdown.
There's reason why. There's good reason why. 2 American citizens were killed. There's good reason to push pause.
And there will be justice done, and if you believe in our justice system, but we still, we don't have answers, and there's certainly not any justice being done as we're trying to take care of our homeland. And this is not the time while we have international conflict to let this funding lapse. But I appreciate you being with me tonight and having a good conversation here. Next, we'd like to talk to John.
Briggs, Congressman.
Hi, John. Where are you calling from tonight?
Hamburg.
Oh, thanks for being with us. What's on your mind?
Yeah. Well, I'm really getting tired of listening to the stuff on TV about the gas going up 15% or 20, 30 cents on a gallon, whatever it might be, even 50 cents. We all understand what's going on in Iran, and we got to bite the bullet till this conflict war is over, and everybody knows why the gas is going up, because they can't get those tankers through the strait right now, but that'll be fixed, I'm sure. Now, the thing that bothers me, Congressman, is if you go back about 20 years ago, when Obama was the president, all of our gasoline prices were sky high, almost $5 a gallon. No conflict, no war. Nobody knows what the hell the reason was, but gas was almost $5 a gallon, and nobody seemed to say anything about that he got a pass. That's what bothers me. The little bit that the gas is going, I understand why. Because we're in the conflict, we got a little war going, and we got to take care of business. So I don't mind the bullet. Anyways, that's a problem with what I see going on.
Well, I hear you loud and clear there. I am disappointed in the fact that the fuel that was at the facilities was bought at a different price, yet they all ran to jack the price up. I think I'm very disappointed that so many of the companies, put the price up 40, 50 cents in a week because they didn't pay that price for a barrel of oil and for a gallon of gas for the gas that they were selling to people. The future stuff obviously is going to cost more.
Yeah.
But, and it's a speculative market, and there's a lot of games being played. I think these betting markets are affecting the future sales, and you see it when, one night on a Sunday, the betting markets had gas going, or a barrel of oil going to $120, and then by midday it was down into the 80s again. I mean, there's a lot of games being played.
Oh boy, yeah, that's
the Straits of Hormuz is a choke point. It's always been a fear. We have enough military might to ensure that the Straits of Hormuz get cleared. It's going to take some time. Destroying the military capability of Iran to use that as an economic weapon. Now, China is obviously their biggest customer, and the Chinese do not want those Straits of Hormuz shut down. So that's going to be something that is going to be on the table. We have to get the Straits of Hormuz fixed, and I do believe that this can stabilize. We also are a net exporter of oil in the United States of America, and that's why American energy independence is so important and why I work so hard on energy issues, because we should not be dictated by a foreign land. No president should bow down before a Saudi king and beg for more oil. I mean, those companies are going to take advantage of uncertainty in the marketplace and jack up the price, and you saw that with some of the OPEC countries. But, they certainly need us for safety and security. So that is something that I hope in the days and weeks ahead we get more military might in the Straits of Hormuz and take care of that and take that issue off the table so we can have more stable oil prices, and it's not just a yo-yo every single day. But it's something I don't slough off 40 cents a gallon. It means a lot to my constituents. And, people that are having a tough time making ends meet, and after 5 years of inflation, people can ill afford higher gas prices. We want gas prices to go down, not up. So it's something we're going to watch very closely, and hopefully with a little more time as this conflict goes on, we get a little more stability. But thank you so much for being with us, John. Next, we're going to go to Karen.
The town of Chautauqua.
Hi, Karen. You're calling from the town of Chautauqua. Thanks for being with us.
Yes,
What's on your mind?
You stood in front of the power plant in Dunkirk, the one that has been shut down since.
I did. NRG, yes.
Yes, along with Assemblyman Molitor and Senator George Borrello, and you called for its reactivation or repowering. What I would like to know is, when will that happen, and how will you facilitate the reactivation of the NRG power plant, which will be dual cycle gas, I understand?
We weren't announcing we were doing it. We were calling on the governor to do it. Governor Hochul has the power to get that project greenlit. It's all in the hands of New York State government. The governor has extraordinary powers in New York, and if she goes to NRG and said, set that thing up with natural gas, by God, it would get done. And we would like to see natural gas create electricity again. That was a coal-fired plant. They shut down all the coal-fired plants in New York. We have one up in Barker in Niagara County. We have Tonawanda, the Huntley plant. We have NRG. All of them sitting there vacant, dormant, huge blights on their communities, and a huge hit to the tax base. And we have everybody seeing their electricity bills go up in New York because the Public Service Commission has raised rates twice in 3 years. We have got to get more electricity being produced to help drive down the cost. They've insisted that the utilities build out the grid so that it's ready for their mass electrification mandate, and we need more electricity on the grid. So that's why Senator Borrello and Assemblyman Molitor and I publicly asked for the governor to do the right thing and repower Dunkirk. It could be done in probably 2 years. And we would have jobs. I mean, the city of Dunkirk is on the verge of bankruptcy. They desperately need a control board. They've got a lot of bad news coming onto the city of Dunkirk, and a lot of it points back to when they lost the tax revenue from NRG being shuttered. And it was a decision under Cuomo, but Kathy Hochul could fix this. And I hope she does give a real long, hard thought and gets past some of the politics and really goes ahead with this proposal, because it would create hundreds of jobs. It would help us lower energy rates and get this end of the state back on track.
and it would also produce about 800 megawatts of power, far more than all the wind and solar and other that are now proposed. What would you advocate for what Tonawanda, the same owner, NRG?
I would love it if Tonawanda would repower it. I know that
Tonawanda
they're looking
Tonawanda is calling for public utility. They're calling for eminent domain. Would you?
Well, they want to take the facility, and I heard that they're in discussions on data centers, and I haven't. It's not my jurisdiction, so I haven't spent much time with that particular project. But Dunkirk is firmly in my district, so that's great. Why I would like to see all the old coal plants be converted to natural gas, and that's what should have been done when they were first shuttered in the first place. You don't take power off the grid until you have more power to provide people.
Mm-hmm. And I'll quote you from the newspaper. You're quoted in the newspaper here. Yeah. You're quoted in the Post-Journal as saying, and when you do transfer it over to natural gas, it will be reliable, accessible, abundant, and cleaner, as well as cheaper for the public. So that's the truth. We appreciate your advocating for that.
Well, thank you so much, Karen. I appreciate you being with us. Let's go to Carol.
Good evening.
Hello, Carol. How are you?
Good evening. Fine, thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for being with me. Where are you? Where are you calling from tonight?
Hamburg.
Okay, thank you. What's on your mind?
Well, I have just heard on the news tonight something very disturbing, and it's part of the lack of civility and even hatred that goes across our country. And the news was quoting at least three. I believe they were all representatives in Congress.
Okay.
They were saying how people of the Islamic faith, Muslims, have no place in this country. They're citizens, and yet they're being spoken about so derogatorily. And so this is also happening against our Jewish brothers and sisters and ethnic groups. So I wonder, what efforts are you putting forth among your fellow Congress people to try to bring us to civility?
Well, I certainly have never said that. I disagree with that statement wholeheartedly. I know many wonderful
I know
Muslim
you're very
people.
Respectful. I agree. You are respectful.
And I don't behave that way. I will say that I'm disappointed with a lot of people on both sides of the aisle where I serve. There's people that say things to be provocative and get attention. And I don't know precisely the quotes that they're pulling from, or even what members you're speaking about, but I'm not denying it, because there are
one
people.
One is from Florida and one from the Midwest, and I forgot who the third one was. But my hope and prayer is that every person in government, every elected official, will publicly condemn such language.
Yeah, I would condemn that language. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense that you would just paint everyone with one brush. I mean, there's certainly people, there's people of the Muslim faith that have conducted terrorism, but there's amazing people that are incredible members of American society and American citizens that practice the Muslim faith. It's irresponsible to speak that way about any ethnic group, and there's no place for it in our politics.
Right, and I hope you will publicly say so, and that'll be on the record, and encourage all the other elected officials to publicly condemn any kind of hateful, derogatory language about any person, especially citizens, but any other person who may be here visiting. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. Next, we are going to talk to Alyssa.
From Lancaster.
Hello, Alyssa.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. You're from Lancaster?
I am.
Great.
So
What's on your mind
thank
tonight?
you for all the hard work that you're doing. I want to thank you for that. I know you work way over time than everybody else does there. I don't agree with everything that's been discussed so far, especially with the being civil. I am tired of always taking the back seat and saying I'm sorry or apologizing for being Catholic because I don't want to offend somebody else. Well, I'm offended. Christmas is about Jesus Christ. I work with Middle Eastern people who are they're not even being coy. deaf to America, raping the women. They're speaking Arabic in the workplace. You want to work here, please speak English. You want to go out in your car, go outside and talk Arab, whatever. Those who are citizens that embrace our culture, embrace the capitalism and making a great living here and the American dream for their family, God bless them. The ones that are wearing the hijabs and don't show their face, they're the ones you have to be worried about because they want death to America. They're open about it. I have my family on the front lines that are fighting against protesters who are being paid millions of dollars to create havoc everywhere. And I'm hoping, my question was, if the news media would concentrate on the constituents for the Democratic Party, see if they're agreeing with what the Democrats are doing, because to me, they're not working in good faith with the President of our United States. Love him, hate him, whatever. He's doing what he says he's going to do. He gave Iran several chances to come to the table, talk terms, and do a deal. They went back and forth. They were playing games. And he had to go in. He had no choice. He gave him an opportunity. He had no choice. And those people in Iran, I have people that I know there too, are grateful. They're thankful. They want the regime out of there. And this is what it has to change. I'm tired of I'm not going to be quiet anymore. And I am offended when you attack my family, my country. My parents came here from Italy. They embraced our country. They worked 2 and 3 jobs. They didn't take welfare. They didn't take food stamps. We were raised with honor and work ethic. And no, Trump's doing what he has to do. You're doing what you're supposed to do. But the media needs to start doing their job. The Congress has to start, when we're not in an election year, work together, cross the aisle, and make things work. TSA being off their jobs, not being paid. Trump paid for the first time. They went around. They're like, oh, he'll do it again. He'll pay again. No, take their pay. Take the Democrat side that people are fighting against not having voter ID. As an American citizens, our right to vote, not people who are not citizens of our country. They don't pay taxes. They don't get to vote. It's very simple. It's not that difficult.
Well, Alyssa, is there a question in there somewhere?
I know. Can the media start interviewing constituents for the Democratic side? Because I know 84% of the Americans agree about voter ID.
And the numbers don't lie. Let's talk about voter ID. We'll make that your question.
Okay.
The numbers are consistent over time that people want voter identification. Be who you say that you are. Prove that you're an American citizen. Register to vote. Let's do this once and for all. And the cowardice of hiding behind this filibuster, there's a majority that supports voter identification, far wider in the public than it is. I think Thune should have more of a backbone, Senate Majority Leader Thune, and create a standing filibuster and let them make all the arguments. It would take weeks to get done, but under the rules in a standing filibuster, and not this nonsense where they can just raise their hand and say, no, we object and we're not going to debate. They each can talk twice. Our estimates have it somewhere around 3 weeks, and then they'd be out of gas. If you figured, because some of their people can't go on for 24 hours. And they would exhaust every senator and every senator's turn in about 3 weeks. This is one of those existential issues that people have been crying for years, and for every reason under the sun, the status quo has fought against it. Many states have voter ID requirements. New York is not one of those. Listen, I think since we have a bipartisan board of elections, I'm pretty comfortable with New York's elections. But in many of these states, they don't. Whoever's in power appoints all the election workers. That's when you get question marks. And, we have a self-policing system. When you go to vote, there's just as many Democrats as there are Republicans working the polls. No one's going to pull anything if both parties are represented. What we learned in 2020 in Georgia, they didn't have it that way. It was only the people that were appointed by the leadership of the county, which was all in one party's hands. And then when questions arise, you don't have that self-policing system. Voter ID would end all of that. And in moving that forward, we have now passed the bill twice. The Senate can't get out of its own way, and they need to stand up and fight to do the right thing. So I just, I know it's uncomfortable for them. It's like a country club over there. I mean, it's They all want to get along and be friends behind the scenes. This is one of those tough moments. We have got to have this voter identification. We'll take all the guesswork out of this once and for all, and they need the standing filibuster to get it done. I support it wholeheartedly. I mean, this filibuster's time has come and gone. It's a tool of the minority, and we've seen a shutdown, now a second shutdown, all in the name of, preserving this old system that they have in the Senate. It doesn't move fast enough, doesn't get anything done. I talked to one senator a few weeks ago. They said, well, if you have something you really care about getting accomplished in the Senate, it takes about 8 years. Well, this country doesn't have 8 years to wait around to get the right thing done. So thank you for being with us, Alyssa. I really appreciate your call.
Thank you so much for the call.
Next, we are going to go to Jacqueline. Hi, Jacqueline.
For taking my question.
Thank you. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from West Philly.
Okay. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Thanks for taking all the calls. You pretty much answered the question. We recently got our electric bill, and we live in a 700 square foot house. We're gone 10 to 12 hours a day at work, and our electric bill was over $300.
It's out of control. I mean, my mother heats with propane. It's so expensive. And,
yes, and we heat with propane, so the rest of it was electric. We paid more for delivery charges than anything else. It's disheartening. My guy works at the park, so he barely makes, I wouldn't say minimum wage, but it's a minimum amount of money. Working for the state isn't always the richest job in the world. It's hard. You get to the point where, do I buy my medicines this month or do I pay the heat bill? And heat doesn't work. Make too much money for that. They put a smart meter in. All that did was raise the bill.
Well, the smart meters got installed at the same time as the rate increase that the governor put in. And she didn't do it herself. Her public service commission that she appoints did the rate increases.
Right.
And then they allowed the utilities and mandated that they put all of this grid improvement on the back of the ratepayer. It's a backdoor tax increase is all it is. It's a state mandate on the utilities to build this grid out. It's tens and hundreds of millions of dollars that they're making them spend, and they're passing it along to the customer. It's just driving more and more people out of our area, and it's an assault on the upstate lifestyle. New York City, Long Island, all those bustling places, they're not complaining about this like we're hearing up here. People don't have the extra income to have a $700 gas bill in January and February, in the coldest, toughest winter we've had in an awful long time. And that's why we need a state that's got a positive energy outlook. I mean, we have this CLCPA, which is the Green New Deal. I mean, when I come to Washington and talk about these policies, the Green New Deal is just a bad idea out there. The Green New Deal is actual law in New York, and that's why I introduced the Energy Choice Act, which would stop states from banning natural gas and propane hookups. Given our climate, it's absolutely asinine. They want you to electrify your home. And with the electric bills people are facing this winter, they're seeing firsthand why this is a dead end. Now, the governor pressed pause on that because she doesn't want it to get in the way of this fall. And she doesn't want people talking about it. But we're hearing from people every single day that the electric bills in our part of the state in the home heating has gone off the charts. I know it has at my home too. I'm a ratepayer just like all of you, and I as I sit down and write out the monthly bills, I can't believe how much higher it is than last year. And you look at the detailed bill, and it's all in the build out and delivery fees that are state mandates put down on these utilities, and they want to vilify the utility. They're executing the mandate that the state gave them to do. The state made this decision to raise these energy prices, and people have got to remember that. But we want to put more and more. We want that natural gas and propane to come down because we want to explore more of it. We want to put more of it on the market to drive down the price of it. So we have unlimited supply here in the United States of America. We don't need to get it from any other country. We don't need to truck it in from anywhere. It's right under our feet in our district. They won't let us harness it. And that's what's so wrong about the state of New York and why so many people are leaving the state of New York. But I really appreciate you, Jacqueline, for being with us here tonight. Really appreciate everybody. Again, *3 on your phone if you want to ask a question. We've got tons of them to get through, and we're going to keep cranking here. Next, we're going to talk to Mindy.
Congressman,
Hi,
thanks
Mindy.
so much for taking. Hi, Congressman. Thanks so much for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I have supported people with developmental disabilities here in New York for the last 30 years. You have been a great supporter of the work that we do and the people with disabilities that need our support. I'm concerned that this month, Dr. Oz sent Governor Hochul a letter indicating they had some questions about Medicaid. I understand from the news that there was some concerns about Medicaid usage in Minnesota, but and I'm not sure that has even been fully investigated. There could be a problem there, of course. But the concern is now New York State is because, Hochul and Trump don't get along, right? So now New York State's getting targeted. The whole Medicaid program is going to be reviewed. The governor has 30 days to respond to a series of questions. I guess what I'm hoping is for your assurance that you're not going to allow, listen, Trump can be a little off his rocker sometimes, and he can get, he makes some good decisions, but then he gets mad at people and he flies off the handle. We can't let people with disabilities in New York State lose services or suffer because of some political battle between Trump and Hochul. We just can't let that happen. And so I'm hoping for your reassurance that you will stand by the people I support if there are ever any targeted cuts to the population based on, just some, political rivalry.
I appreciate you bringing this up and then the way you brought it up, because Medicaid fraud, I look at every dollar wasted, squandered, or stolen is a dollar taken away from those people that are the most vulnerable, that need it the most. And when we were negotiating the budget reconciliation and the big, beautiful bill, there were Medicaid proposals out there from people on the far right end of my conference that would have absolutely gutted those programs that people depend on so very much in our state and every state for that matter. Medicaid was created for the most vulnerable. It wasn't created as a catch-all for people that didn't want to provide for themselves, that are able-bodied, that don't have dependents. And that's why during that process, I fought to maintain the integrity of the Medicaid, and not one person with disabilities is going to have a dime taken away. And we preserved all the funding levels that the federal government provides the states to provide for that traditional Medicaid population, because we as a society need to provide for those that can't provide for themselves. And the developmentally disabled are the most vulnerable among us, and we have to be there for them. Unfortunately, we heard a lot of noise and rhetoric during that process when we tried to put common sense work requirements on the able-bodied without dependents. It was, them trying to move disabled people out front, saying you're hurting them. No, if New York State decides to cut services for the disabled, they have done that their own way. When we talk about investigating, and I'm on the House Oversight Committee and in the Energy and Commerce Committee, both of those committees are going to be involved in looking at New York's books on this. New York spends more on the Medicaid program than Texas or California. Each of those states have nearly double our population. And they're not as generous across the board as New York is. New York opts into every single possible federal rider for Medicaid, and that's why we've become a destination for people that want a very healthy social welfare benefit. But what anyone's looking for is not anything that's hurting the disabled. It's, the fact that New York doesn't police its own Medicaid system. New York doesn't investigate Medicaid fraud the way it should, because they should take this very seriously, because the state budget when Andrew Cuomo left office, it was 185 billion. It's now like 274, I think, is the newest number that the projection's at, or 272 perhaps. It's just exploding, and this is obviously the largest line item. We have to protect the most vulnerable, but we can't be all things to all people. And money that is slipping away from those vital programs to take care of those most vulnerable is working against the mission that the people and the taxpayers need. So I will always be an advocate for the disabled. I will never, be with an effort to take away programs for those that can't take care of themselves. And so I don't, I understand any fear that when you start investigating something, but if there's bad actors that have these shell companies that are fleecing Medicaid, we need to plug those holes. They look at New York first.
You know what? I just want to say I agree with you. If there are people who are doing that, I agree. And I do very much appreciate you standing up and saying, hey, fine, institute the work requirements, but that the people we support would not be subject to some of these rules. And I know that you spoke up on their behalf.
They're disabled, and that's what, Medicaid was created for, the truly impoverished, the people that can't work, the people that are truly disabled. That's what the program's there for. It was created by LBJ to do that, and we needed to maintain that.
I just want to be careful. That whatever, I understand that Medicaid spend has gone up significantly, in part because Governor Cuomo didn't invest in the service system for 10 years. Workers went without wages. All of a sudden the service system was in extreme failure due to no staffing, and people were going out without their basic needs met. And so there definitely did need to be an increase in the Medicaid just for workers alone. But I just want to be careful that if all of a sudden the federal government says, hey, we've got to take a longer look into this, let's just keep people first, like keep people in mind, people with disabilities. If we do need to make a significant change in Medicaid, let's make it over time. Let's make a soft landing. We just can't leave our most vulnerable citizens without services. And I'm just afraid some rash decision
I agree with you
Trump.
wholeheartedly. And,
Thank you.
I think I've kind of outlined where I'm coming from on this. And
Thank you.
we have to maintain that safety net for those that can't take care of themselves. And, what we're looking for in any of this waste, fraud, and abuse stuff since the administration started is, a dollar stolen from the government or wasted and squandered is one that's not going to the intended purpose. And it's those people that program's for, and that's who we're going to fight for. So thank you for being with us here tonight. Next, we are going to Paul. Hi, Paul.
How are you?
Good. Where are you calling from?
I'm in Alden, New York.
Okay. Thanks for being with us.
And I'm very interested in some of the comments that have been made by your constituents this evening. I thought Karen from Lancaster had some very good thoughts on the avenue of our descendants coming here and the work ethic that was brought into place for years and years. And what's happening today is a little disturbing to me. And I do think that as we go forward, the question needs to be presented to folks like you as to where your position might be on exploring term limits. The Congress, the Senate, and the House, along with the people in the state government, can't get along. You had mentioned just a few minutes ago about how legislation might take 8 years to get something through. That seems a little foolish. I'm a small businessman. I can't wait 8 years to get a decision.
You can't wait 8 months to make a change in your business.
I cannot.
When you need a change, and it's I have long been a supporter of term limits. I've co-sponsored legislation for term limits. We have a term limit on the presidency.
What is your feeling on the length of time that a congressman or a senator should be entitled? And I understand, Congressman, that your position is one of service, supposedly for everyone that is in government is one of service. Now, when we get to the point where we're constantly voting on party lines, there's no service there. This is self-interest. So I'm thinking, why not bring into the college education system a way of promoting upcoming political candidates to understand that they're going to be brought into office on an elected basis by American people, not by immigrants or illegals, but by the American people. They would be brought into office and they would have a maximum term of 8 years in the Congress and 4 years in the Senate, maybe 6. But nonetheless, where do you stand on an idea like that?
Well, I support term limits. I think the bill, that we supported has, maybe 4 terms for a House member, and I think it was 2 terms for a senator. I mean, if you can't get the job in 10 or 12 years, if you can't get it done and make your mark, you should probably let someone else come in and get the job done.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When I look at people grasping and spending $100 million to get their 6th term in the U.S. Senate, and the terms are 6 years at a time, it's kind of sad. I've been elected. I serve with some people here in the House that got elected before I was born.
Right.
Multiple
That's
people.
wrong.
And it's unfortunately, they think that, their service is, sometimes you're having the new and fresh ideas. I will tell you this, though. It's moving much faster here than it did in different eras. When I came in, my seniority rank was 400, out of 435. My last name starts in the middle of the alphabet. So there were 35 people underneath me. After 1 term, I was 333. That's a large group of people that didn't come back, whether they lost re-election, didn't run again, ran for something else. Because of the people on both sides of the aisle that have run for other offices or have announced their retirement, I think that if the people give me another term, I will be somewhere in the 260s after, without even knowing what the outcome of the elections are. That is a lot faster. The House turns over much more drastically than the Senate. The Senate is, they have these long, deliberate terms. I mean, our junior senator has served for 17 years. Our junior senator has been there 17 years. So I do think term limits would certainly help shake things up, bring new voices to the table. The public's doing a pretty good job of it in the House because there seems to be every time there's a midterm election, there's a big swing one way or the other. At least that's been kind of the mantra. But term limits, I am a supporter of. So I thank you for being with us.
One follow-up for you,
okay.
Congressman. What you just said is all well and good on the electoral process, but don't you believe in this area of discussion with term limits that if a senator, let's say, comes in and he knows that he's there to serve his country for a maximum of X number amount of years, whether it be 4, 6, or 8, that when that time is up, he's not up for re-election. He's going to perform to his ultimate ability to get things accomplished with cooperation from going across the aisle for the good of the country.
I think it would help to some extent. I mean, the country is more polarized than it was. The media covers our politics like they cover a sporting event. You're for one team or you're for the other team. I will tell you all, and I say this all the time, there are far more small acts of bipartisanship than will ever get covered in the media. I work with Congressman Morelli, who's a Democrat who we don't really vote alike, but we care about Western New York. He represents Rochester. I represent the Buffalo suburbs. He has projects that he is fighting for investment in for the laser labs in Rochester, at the University of Rochester. I know that's going to help our regional economy to have a center of excellence there. I dig in as well with him and work together to move those objectives forward. That doesn't get on the news because it's not us versus them or shirts and skins or Bills versus Dolphins. That's the way, unfortunately, our politics is covered, and that's how most people get exposed to it. That's why I like these conversations that we can have once a month where where I can kind of more in a longer form than the media, because if they talk to me for 15 minutes and interview me, 90 seconds of it gets on the news. You know, and that's where our email newsletter, which, you know, many of you subscribe to, and you can go to our website at langworthy.house.gov and get that sent to you every Sunday. I tell you what I'm working on and what the issues of the day are and what my perspective is. I mean, you know, there's plenty of people that, you know, disagree with me, and that's their right to do it.
But to my point is, and you didn't answer the question really.
I'm not quite sure what the question was. I'm sorry.
The question was,
don't I think they would do a better job? Sure. If you had 12 years and then an expiration date in the Senate.
If they know their deadline is coming, that they would perform with more cooperation for the good of the country. That's basically my question.
I would hope.
If you had a term limit, if you had a term limit, and you knew you only had 2 more years to accomplish your goal, you weren't going to go and re-campaign and go out to get reelected. You were going to
I'm running out of time, so I got to just answer your question for you, Paul. Yes, I do think people would do a better job. I really appreciate you being with us here tonight. And I have time for one more, and we were going to go with Kim. Hi, Kim. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good now that I got through.
Okay. What's on your mind? Where are you calling from?
Okay, I'm calling from Jamestown, right down the road from one of your offices.
Very good. What's on your mind tonight?
The question I have is, I was telling the lady before I got through to you that I'm one of 85 people in the world with a certain cancer that was diagnosed with this. I did 48 rounds of chemo, and each time I drove to Baltimore, Johns Hopkins, because I went to Cleveland Clinic, Mayo Clinic, Sloan Kettering, UPMC, Roswell, Dana-Farber. None of them knew what to do with me, but Johns Hopkins did. So you can see that there was a life-saving thing. I went down there to Baltimore because they were the only ones that knew what to do with me. By accident, not accident, but nobody else told me that I also had a second cancer. One of 1,500 people in the world be diagnosed with that per year. So 48 rounds of chemo, and then I did the 15 rounds of radiation. I have to go there for the rest of my life, which it's a life-saving thing. 7 hours, I drive it. But now when COVID came into effect, all of a sudden telehealth came into effect. So I could sit in my
game changer.
And I could sit in my house. I could sit on my cell phone. I could talk to my doctors. And that went on for about 2.5 years. They paused the licensing rules, and they allowed you to see a doctor in any state, no matter where you sat, and no matter where that doctor was licensed, you could see them across. If I want to see somebody in Alaska, I could do it from sitting in Jamestown, New York. When COVID was over, they turned around, reinstated the licensing restrictions. And if doctors
so you can no longer go across state lines?
No, I can't go across state lines to talk to a doctor. So now I have to drive again and drive all the way down there. If you Google my name,
Kim, I'm gonna call you offline and talk about this a little more.
Okay.
because this is the first time I'm here. We did the extenders on telehealth, and because it's been kind of, it's not a permanent fix to telehealth, making it permanent, which we need to do. We keep extending it in a year-by-year package, but I was unaware of this cross-state lines issue. You're the first person I've talked to about this, so we're going to call you on the side. My staff's going to dig into this with you and see if there's a legislative fix we can put forward on that.
I have a whole packet of stuff that I put together. I sent it by FedEx to Donald Trump 3 weeks ago, and Secret Service stopped the guy and said not accepting. This is just before we bombed Iran. So he said, I got to back out. I got to get it back to you. And get
it to my office, and we want to talk to you about. Can you get it to
Donald Trump?
Well, I can get it to Donald Trump, but we write the laws here, so.
But
I will. I would very much like to talk about this topic more with you, but I'm out of time. So.
Okay.
But we'll call you on the side. Again, we are to the end of, we're actually in overtime on the time allotted on our telephone town hall meeting for the month. I greatly appreciate all of you spending the time. We heard certainly about a wide variety of topics, and you hear what's on the minds of your neighbors, and that's what this is all about. And we have a lot of big challenges to tackle on behalf of the American people. I'm honored to work towards solutions that will help our residents, our families, and businesses in Western New York and the Southern Tier, and hopefully create a stronger American dream for our kids and our grandkids. Please know our door is always open. If you have any questions or concerns, my office motto is there's no problem too big and no problem too small. Today, very proud, got to call the VFW in Cassadaga, New York, and Chautauqua County, and we were able to make a problem they had with the IRS go away. The IRS was after them for $9,000 for a payment error, and we got them the satisfaction they needed and got that resolved. That's just one example. We help people with their problems every single day in our office. We have offices in Clarence, in Jamestown, in Olean, and in Corning. And we have a world-class team of people ready to help all of our constituents with their problems. So if we didn't get to your call tonight, I'm sorry. We got to as many as we could in the time allotted. But please stay on the line, leave a message. We will get back to you. But thank you for joining me. God bless you and your families, and God bless the United States of America. Have a wonderful evening.